probably towards the end of the discussion. Really excited about this webinar for us at Sport Wellington. It's our first one with coaches, so we're really excited about that. We've got 3 really awesome coaches to head our discussion today, and I'll just give you a brief overview of who they are. So we've got Mark Watson from Mana Kayak Racing Club, Maya Vink from Capital Football, and Sandra Edge from Netball Wellington. So a cool little group, and hopefully today we're going to really unpack a little bit around what coaching has been or perhaps will be for them during this COVID-19 situation. So we're going to do a little bit of sharing and discussion, and hopefully the coaches will be giving you a bit of an insight into what they're doing and how they're interacting with their athletes and their teams. As a way of just looking at a couple of little things and providing a bit of a brief introduction to the discussion, just going to share a couple of little quick slides. So I guess if we look at coaching before the COVID-19 situation, perhaps we had a certain way of doing it, and we had certain skills and tools that we would be using in our coaching day to day with our teams and with our athletes. But since this situation has come in, I think it's been pretty clear, not just in coaching, but in all areas of life, we've had to adapt, and perhaps we've had to learn a few new skills, and that's probably been the case for many of us who have, I guess, been trying to carry on with our coaching during this time. When it does come down to coaching, I think it's pretty clear that there will always be some things that form the foundation of how we're going to operate and how we're going to do things. And I think these 3 questions here we're going to try and look at today and explore with the different coaches about how they've adapted. Probably the couple of the key things that we have noticed, that the environment has changed. And that's probably one of the key things that the coaches will no doubt highlight when we do get into our discussion. So without any further ado, we'll just go and have a little bit of a brief introduction with our coaches. So what I'll do is I'll just ask them to quickly introduce themselves and just to have a little bit of a talk about who they are, a little bit on their coaching journey, perhaps what it is, what's their purpose or their why when it comes to coaching. So to begin with, I'll pass it over to Mark Watson. So Mark, if you want to perhaps kick us off on that little brief introduction, please.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Hi, everybody, and thanks for coming on board today. My coaching background really is in flatwater kayak racing, and I've been doing it for, a long time, probably 40 years now. I guess my why with coaching is really about helping people be really the best versions of themselves, helping them to discover things about what they can do, and that can be across all sorts of levels of sport. I guess my coaching is spread across from entry level right up to the high performance area. But I must admit, probably the whole area that really excites me the most is around when you really think that it's about the people. It's about people development rather than the sport development to me. And so, whether you're at a high performance end, it's more about how those people can get the best from themselves, to even a little wee kid down at the other end of the spectrum, just seeing them try things for the first time and achieving something. So they're the things that really give me a kick out of what I do and why I do coaching. Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Cool, thanks, Mark. Maya, hopefully you're on the line. Are you able to share a little bit around what it is that got you into your coaching journey and perhaps your purpose when it comes to coaching?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Maya. So I've started coaching when I was pretty young. Actually, I was a player to begin with in football and really loved it. Really took a love to the game, and that's kind of just gone through into my coaching career. I've been lucky enough to work across a few different environments, so be that community level with U12 girls, all the way through to working for a professional club, and now with Capital Football, kind of an RSO role. So kind of feel like I've seen a lot and done a lot, and for me, though, again, coming back to my why is very much around empowering young women. So seeing them grow, seeing them develop, kind of echoing what Mark's just said in terms of it being around the person and the people versus the actual sport, and hoping they go on to be good people, whatever life path they choose.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Maya.
Yes.
And Sandra, over to you, please.
I think Sandra might be having just a couple difficulties logging into this chat, and she'll be joining us in the next 5 minutes, hopefully.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Megan. All right, what we will do is begin our discussion, and I guess the first thing we want to look at is what have you been doing? And I'm going to pass it over to Mark. Mark's got a little bit of a brief presentation to share about his coaching so far. So Mark, I'll pass it to you.
Cool. So bear with me, everyone, while I'm getting into this technology and sharing this with you. So yeah, hopefully it all comes up to plan. And right, hopefully we can see that. Tim,
yeah, that's perfect, Mark.
Cool. So yeah, as I said before, I'm Flatwater Kayak Coaching, and our club's called Mana Kayak Racing. We have a neat little saying get up to speed. That's really up to the individual, and it means speed in all sorts of contexts. And generally to do that, as I said before, we really have a big focus on people. As you can imagine, a lot of our time is spent on the water, and I guess COVID-19 has really impacted on us in that way because we can't be on the water, so we've had to really change what we do. The type of people that coaching at Mana is at all ages, basically, probably from about 12 right through to an older age, but quite older. And then we have a squad that really consists of athletes that are, I guess, really in their way committed to doing what they want to do and achieve out of the sport, and they tend to paddle 6 days a week and doing other things off on land as well. So their age groups probably range from 15 to 21 years of age. But within that group, their real reasons for doing it are completely varied. You know, for a couple of them, it's really they just love being on the water, and they love the fact they can try and master a K1. A K1's a very, very unstable type craft of boat, and it does take a lot of balance and skill to actually be able to paddle one of those. And then right up to another young girl, the 21-year-old, she's trying to bust into the high performance system. And yeah, so her life looks a little bit different to what the other two are doing, and some of the others in between are all on their own little journey of self-discovery within that sort of spectrum. So it is quite varied. The coaching is yeah, incredibly varied to how we go about doing it, but it is a lot of fun. So as I said before, my environment for coaching used to look like being in our club rooms out at Porirua, right on the edge of the water, and now it looks like this. So it consists of my phone and my computer. And so with my phone, basically that's our messenger. So we're using Messenger a lot with our athletes, and it's basically everything goes up on that. They get a little message every morning about what they're going to be doing. And it's also the medium where we feedback and have a lot of fun together. The computer side is really about the emailing when we have fun things that or sort of other activities that are being published. We share those. But also that's where we use Zoom, and we've come to really get into Zoom and enjoy Zoom, and it's coming out what we call our learning platform. So we sort of get together probably every third night on Zoom, and then, as I said, my main environment through the phone is something I'm really enjoying. I must say, in a real bizarre way, I'm sort of actually really enjoying this new environment. Hey, I guess I've been reflecting a little bit on what it is, and being forced to be at home, I guess a lot has really given you extra time, and it's given you a lot more thinking time. And I found that also the depth of connection and the broadness of things that we're covering is probably what I always really wanted to do. But you know, it's funny. We would train every morning basically, and I have to work as well. So time's always a little bit of a pressure to try and cover everything, which I'm sure many coaches can relate to. But yeah, I've really found this quite invigorating, actually, this new environment that I'm finding myself in. And there's definitely things that I would take forward from this, and in particular the connection. You know, as obvious as it is, Zoom you know, I don't know, I must be old school. I was talking to one of my colleagues this morning too, and he mentioned this, which is telephones. We're good at talking on the telephone, some of us, but actually doing face-to-face things online is just totally foreign. But what I've found is actually this is brilliant, because I can still read people, you can see their gestures, you can see how they're looking at things, or when you're trying to explain something, you can still pick up on all those little cues that you're sort of looking for normally in coaching. And so, yeah, it's great. It's sort of been giving me a really cool little insight into what the future could look like for me to even keep better using my time than what I was in the past, because it was just too busy. And that's one thing that I've learned about what I've been trying to do. So yeah, moving on to it. So I guess these are the 4 key things that when I look at what I'm trying to do with our athletes at the moment, obviously connection's crucial. You know, with all of us, that's one of our biggest skills, is how we connect with the people that are in front of us. And when I look at what we're trying to do there, it's also about feedback. You know, I've found we can actually get even better feedback. But even one of the other big things is that they're feedbacking to each other, for want of a better word, to each other, giving each other feedback, which has been brilliant, because same thing for them, their days don't seem to be so busy and they're not so distracted. The fun thing is really crucial with everything we do, but what we found in this is that they set themselves little challenges. They tend to be more physical activities that involve a little bit of thinking, and it's trying to outdo each other. And so they all film each other and doing these fun little activities, and then they feed that back into our messenger sort of feed, and it's great. And they have a little chat together about, wow, how awesome that was, or man, this is impossible, and how on earth did you manage to do that? And you know, it's just that really neat communication that's going on there. And I think the fun thing also that comes from what we've been doing is it's completely varied, and I'll go into that a little bit more on the physical conditioning side. The learning component that's big in what we do is probably front of mind a lot, and it's more around the person. We have this thing that we're about revealing the masterpiece within. So it's about chipping away at things, about revealing that person you really want to be. And so the whole character development is massive. And what we've found with them in particular is that they're actually really loving doing that. They have a chance to practice it throughout the day. You know, we talk about things to do with the man in the arena, you know, being prepared to make mistakes, to get your bum kicked, as Brene Brown would say, but how to get back up all the time. But the big point is actually, you know, to take the action in the first place, but then be aware of who is in your bubble, your arena, who's in your support group, and what they're saying. So if they're on the outside all the time and they keep throwing things at you, well, it doesn't really matter, because they're not actually in your arena. They don't understand maybe as well as what you are as to why you're doing what you're doing and the mistakes that you may be making. And then we're linking it into many of the other things that we've talked about a lot around what mindset, you know, and you know, that really wise man Albert Einstein came up with that great philosophical quote that the biggest choices you have in your whole life is whether you choose to live on a positive side or look at things in a negative sense. And that is a choice. And we talk about that a lot. We bring in the good wolf, bad wolf, so that when it comes to what you're doing in an everyday situation, to make yourself vulnerable, you know, what are you looking at those sort of times? And so it's been really cool being on Zoom meetings, really honing in on that stuff with these guys a little bit more, because again, the time factor, I found that they've been more engaged into it than what we have been when we've been out in our own normal environment out by the water. Yeah, the physical conditioning's been the big one, because as I said, we can't get on the water. So yeah, normally, yeah, we go into the gym. But what we've found here has been fantastic, that they, I guess for me, it's made me focus on an area that I just call our aerobic power. You know, short, sharp, faster stuff that's actually going to give them maximum bang for their buck. You know, they're not runners, they're not gymnasts as such. Yeah, they can do some strengthening work, but basically it's trying to make it achievable so they don't get injured, but they're also going to get maximum gain from it in this time. And See, what we found is it's really worked really well. So their bike riding, you know, if they want to get a little bit more of a cardio system workout, then they're up the hills. The running, you know, we can mix in some sessions that they're familiar with through kayaking, a little bit around, you know, the whole, like I said, aerobic power area or VO2 max area. And then, you know, the variety of using boxing drills and things like that, again, around agility and movement. And also football's been a really cool one. There's been some great resources that just by playing with a football outside and doing some fancy work around it, doing reps and sessions like that, has been really invigorating for many of them, I guess. So, so that's how I've sort of looked at those 4 components and how we've sort of used it. What's been really fascinating is really how people have had to adapt. And so not everyone has a punching bag at home, but so this is what one of them's done, gone and got a few pillows out, I think it is, taped them up, hung them onto a little monkey bar that she's got outside, and then she sits out there and does her boxing on it, and it works, and she gets real cool physical workout from it. She thinks it's really fun, and she's been creative in how she's gone about it. The one in the middle there around that beautiful broccoli dinner, that one of them, she's just decided that, you know, I'm going to step up and actually get in that kitchen and do more and more around it. She's discovering the delights of broccoli in her own way. So, you know, that's been quite cool. And when you sort of read their comments about what they've, you know, they all comment back on these things, it's really neat to just see how they all sort of feed off each other. And that's when those 4 areas that I was talking about before, they're all integrated. You know, they're not done in isolation. And that's a key part for us going forward with this as well. And for me personally, trying to explain a session, that's quite complicated to do it. So I've had to go and get my little notebook out and draw pictures and try and make it as, you know, as understandable as possible. And to my amazement, this has actually worked. They all got it, which is actually quite a complex thing to explain as to how that one works. But no one came back to me, and I just couldn't believe it. I had to go back to them to say, "You really got this." But they're like, "Yeah, no, that worked really cool, and it was really good fun." So you know, it's making us all really adapt, which has been fantastic in that sense, and incredibly innovative too. I guess this one is really about, again, some of these things, but adapting, doing things differently, being a little bit courageous. You know, this girl, she's basically, as it says there, left her training a little bit late for the getting out on her bike. So her dad said, "Oh, I've got some rollers, jump on that." And these are the old-fashioned rollers where you've actually got a balance on there. So not so easy to do, a little bit intimidating, especially if you're not a bike rider, which she isn't. But anyway, she got in there and did it, and you know, and the feedback all the time is, "This is really cool, this is fun," you know. And but again, the other thing that comes into this, just to finish on that courageous stuff and inquisitive and the hard work that she put into that, but she's actually connecting in with her family here a lot, and Dad's getting right into what she's doing, and that sort of leads on to what we've sort of been discovering a little bit more in this, about how we're trying to adapt the physiological adaptations to things that we want to do in kayaking, bringing in other activities. So this is a real cool little example of one of them's just doing her speed boxing, and I'm not sure if her and her mother have ever done anything together like that before in the physical side, but gee, it was so cool to see a video like that get posted, and she's, you know, she's loving what she's able to do, and again, she's just a young girl that just enjoys getting out doing what she does in the water, but is absolutely thriving under this whole new environment, loving the fact that mum and dad are taking a huge interest in what she's doing, and to see that as being really, really awesome. So yeah. And then, you know, again, this is an example of parents getting more involved. One of the things we set just for them is to go for a bike ride, find a few big hills. This athlete decided that she was going to drag her dad out, and he took her on some massive hills, but she feeds back, you know, the detail that they feed back makes it really interesting, one for them, but also for the other athletes in the squad, and they feed off each other, and from that comes a huge conversation. And you know, again, they say how they felt with what they've been doing and what went well for them in those aspects. So yeah, so that's been something that, yeah, just really would love to keep going a little bit more. And this is a bit of the fun times, the challenge that that they've been setting for each other. That's a jandal on his foot. And again, in this one, it's in the family home, but this gets streamed out to the rest of the squad. And then all of a sudden, we've got all their squad and their family starting to do all these really sort of fun activities that are challenging them into doing things differently, I guess. And so, yeah, so it's been, you know, one of those sort of experiences for us that has been completely different, but pretty unique. And we're all pretty rapt, that we've really taken it on and thinking differently. And there's so many things now that we will take into what we want to do in the future together to keep that connection, that growth and development and learning going. So yeah, so that's just a sort of snapshot of what we've been doing in there. So cool.
Thanks for sharing that, Mark. And one word I did hear quite a few times is this idea around adapting. And so I think that's pretty much, I think, where we all are at the moment. And really great to hear how you've been doing that with your kayak crew. And it sounds really cool. One quick question before we move on to Sandra next is, did you complete that jandal challenge, Mark?
Yeah. No, I was useless at it, eh? My flexibility is nowhere near it needs to be. So that's a good cue for me to get into it more, which I have been.
Nice. No, it looks like a pretty tough challenge, that one.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. Sandra is on the line now, I think. So hopefully she's got her camera on and her microphone on. And Sandra, welcome along. Just perhaps, if you don't mind, Sandra, would you just perhaps introduce yourself to the group, just perhaps a little bit around your coaching journey and your why or purpose as a coach?
Sure. Kia ora, everybody. I've missed the first part of what's been happening, so have I missed much? Was that you, Mark? Was that your...
Yeah, that was me. See, that's all cool.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'm Sandra. I'm with Netball. Been in Wellington 11 years now, and been involved in netball that whole time. I've coached from under 15 through to recently being an assistant coach for the Central Pulse. I'm currently working with the Netball Wellington Centre, and my title is Emerging Talent Officer. So I have a lot to do with I don't know, players coming into that performance stage. So 16, 17-year-olds in particular. I look after the rep program at Netball Wellington as well. For this year, I was all ready to coach St Mary's Old Girls Premier 1 team and the Wellington under 16 representative team. We got through trials for St Mary's Old Girls, and we hadn't started our rep process for this season, so haven't really got a grip on those teams yet. And in fact, with the club team, I have just been using old-fashioned email and text to keep in contact. However, one group that I am working with at the moment is we have a group of 10 players. They are in what we call the Wellington City Council squad. It's a sports talent development program that Wellington City Council and Sport Wellington support in a number of codes. And so I've been working with that group, and I was just looking at Mark's, what did he have down there? The training plan: connection, fun, learning and physical conditioning. I don't know about the fun part, but what we have been doing is, and it's a bit of a challenge for me as well, we're using it's called actually athlete monitoring. It's a program where we can monitor athletes. So these players have all been given a program. They were given a program for this period of time by a strength and conditioner. And so what we have asked them to do through this program is to record what training they have been doing and a wellness measure, a daily wellness measure. So most of my communications have been with the individuals, because they're all so different, that their needs are different, the way that they are adjusting to using this program it has been different. I've been a bit slow on it, but it has probably kept me more connected with them as opposed to them keeping connected with each other, like what Mark showed. So that's pretty much, in terms of communication and coaching, what I've been doing with that Wellington City Council group.
Thanks for sharing that, Sandra. I think the point you make around connection has been really pretty clear in a whole lot of different formats, whether it be social media, on team groups and things like that. That connection piece seems to be really strong at the moment. So that's probably one thing that you've spoken about, Mark's spoken about, has been a real key thing out of this COVID-19 situation.
I think for me, it's probably a little bit more serious, I think. Maybe it's the way I'm approaching, I'm sure it is, and I'm not a social media person. So what I have been noticing is that the school teams, a lot of schools had already started their trial process and preparation for the season. So a lot of those coaches are doing a fabulous job along the lines of what Mark was talking about. Whereas I've taken probably a more serious approach around that physical conditioning through monitoring them through athlete monitoring, and just getting them to think about recording it saves using a diary. I personally think, well, my approach is just little gradual. So what I noticed, one thing that I did notice was that a lot of them were doing activities like they'd be going for a run and they'd say, I'm going for X amount of Ks, and it was hard. In their program, they were asked to do more change of pace. So rather than saying, don't do that, it's like, well, how about have a look at Nicole's program and see if you can incorporate the interval session that she's given you. So just just trying to think, or get them thinking along those lines.
Yeah, cool. Oh, and I think it's cool how you're trying to stretch them. I think that's something we can still do even though we're in this situation. So thanks for sharing, Sandra. Maya, we'll come on to you and football. So tell us a little bit, please, around how you've been going with coaching right now.
Yeah, I think right from the very beginning, we kind of took a step back and we kind of looked at this as being quite a massive shift in the kids' lives, basically. So I'm working now with the U17, well, it goes from U13 basically all the way up to U17 TAP girls, which is Talent Acceleration Program. So they're all secondary school age and they're all pretty ambitious with their football. So we recognised it was a bit of a time of change for them, and we kind of looked at it as a staff and thought, like, what do they need right now? And to be fair, the football didn't actually come up as number one. It was more, the connection side, making sure they're okay, how are they dealing with this change, and what do they really need throughout the next 4 weeks. So we actually had one-on-ones kind of booked in with the girls in a normal schedule for that week, that first week of lockdown. So we said, you know what, we're going to continue that. We're going to have our one-on-one connections with the players, the parents and the coaches. And that was a really good start for us, just to really understand what they were all going through. So who was actually quite grounded, who had plans and who had some like real goals over lockdown, like did they want to get really fit and strong, or did they want to try a different skill completely? So there's things that we took out of that, but for us it was just about connecting and finding out what they were going through at that moment, and a kind of more of a check-in than actually talking about the football. So as a staff, that was quite powerful for us. And the other thing we did was we actually set it up in a way that they got to choose whether we do it through a Zoom call or through a phone call. And all 24 players chose the Zoom call, which for me was quite a powerful note to say, actually, they do want to connect. They do want to have that point of like, here we are, like it's us and it's you and we're all here still and it's okay. Versus a phone call where it can be, a little bit more formal, I guess, or sometimes harder to connect. So that was quite powerful for me to see that. We've got a tool called Komodo, which is quite similar to what Sandra was talking about in terms of athlete monitoring. We use that as a chat tool as well. So it's got kind of a tool embedded in that, which kind of Mark was speaking to about the messenger. So we've kind of got all of that all in one, which has actually been quite powerful. I think we could maybe use that slightly more towards Mark's side, where we actually get them connecting with each other and chatting away in small groups and that sort of thing as well. We've not used it to that extent, but it's more just letting them know what's happening, what the plan is when we've got things coming up. So the other thing that we use as a communication tool is Google Drive. So we set that up so every player has a folder which is theirs. So whenever we do a task, that they can just upload that straight away, and they can see, kind of everything they've built over the last 4 weeks part of them. So for us, after the one-on-ones, we decided that we're going to go with a weekly team Zoom call. So everyone's connected all at once. We go through basically 30 minutes where it's just a connection piece. It's just catching up. How are you getting on? What's keeping you busy? Some of the girls are painting their bedrooms or taking their dogs for a walk and falling over the lead, and like funny things like that, which just, binds the group together again and gives them something to connect on, which I think they were missing a little bit through not having school and all that sort of stuff. I think then we'd also kind of have some fun. We'll have some challenges, and that's kind of all in the first 30 minutes of that Zoom session each week. Then the second 30 minutes would be around like some real content. So we talked about, so Nat Lawrence from the New Zealand football came in, and she talked about rest periods and periodization and how to look after your body, and what they do with the national team setup that they've got up in Auckland. And that really spoke to the girls and kind of gave them an insight into actually how important it is to get that stuff in. Then we had the following week, I had an S&C come on. She talked about her World Cup experience and things like that. We've got a nutrition seminar next week with football, New Zealand football. So there's different kind of segments that we get into in detail. Yesterday's one was talking around pre-training and pre-match routines. So how do you set yourself up mentally, physically, emotionally? How are you really harnessing that emotion and that power that you've got inside you to go forwards and perform on that match day or in that training? So there's been some really cool stuff that's come out of that. But then every week we also set a task, and this is where the real funds come in. So some of the tasks, for example, were to create an X Factor video. So if they've got clips of themselves, take little clips, maybe like it's 2 or 3 minutes of them performing their X Factor skills, so they get a real confidence boost out of that. Or if they didn't have clips of themselves, they could use best practice, because there's so much on YouTube, or it's different parts, whether it be Instagram or TikTok these days. There's a lot of stuff out there. So they had a lot of fun doing that. We've had tap into the community task, which is where they had to give back to the community, and they filmed it and they put it all in the video, and they all had to contribute to this one video that they put together. And again, I've been so impressed by everything that's come back, where I'm not sure if I just didn't realize it as much before now, but it certainly highlighted and heightened in my thinking that they're just so creative, so innovative with their thinking. They're able to think outside the box. They're so positive. They had this energy about them, and these different tasks have showcased that. Another one was learning a new life skill. So some of them have come back learning like animation on the computer, and some of them have come back with they'd shaved a head and they were learning how to paint the brother's head. Yoga poses, skating with someone that was really scared of skating, yet their whole family skated and she didn't, and she came back skating, and that was like, that was really cool. And we always reflect on those tasks as well. So what did they learn? So especially for that learning a life skill thing, like, where did you see success? Where did you see failure? How did that failure feel? What did it feel like to get through that messy period or overcome that obstacle, and how did you work through it? What did you learn about yourself as an individual? And there's some really fun times that came out of it, like people shouting at each other because they were playing the recorder too loud, and like there's some funny things that come out of it, but there's also some real good content that they've taken away from that as well. And sharing it is always fun. Sharing it's always a good way to connect and get across people there. So I've really enjoyed those weekly Zoom meetings. On top of that, we've got a home program, which is basically part of a wider thing. So I've used it for all of Capital Football. Anyone's able to jump onto it. We've got a youth one and a junior one. So we followed the youth program, which is a 4-week program that encompasses mental skills. So there's tasks for mental skills, resilience, mindfulness, character, that sort of thing. There's video analysis skills. Some of it's tactical, some of it's more technical and diving into individual players. There's obviously some technical components, what they can do inside or outside with the ball. Doesn't necessarily have to be down at the park. And then there's also some fitness component. And for the group that we had with the TAP girls, we didn't necessarily say you have to do everything. Again, as Sandra was saying, like everyone's in a different spot. Everyone's got their own unique limitations and they'll enjoy some stuff more than others. And for us, that was more of a, it's football-ish, but it's also about what do you need for your mental health. You need to go out for a small run every morning just to get yourself your blood flowing and get to that routine and get to that pattern. Or do you really need that football stuff? And everyone took different bits and pieces. Some of them like just repetitively did the same football activities kind of almost every single day, where some of them mixed them up and followed the program to its T, and others just kind of chose little bits. So yeah, I think there's kind of been a real kind of array of different stuff that they can take away. But for me, the most important and most powerful thing in my eyes was that team connect and being able to really see each other, feel each other, buzz off that energy. We get into breakout rooms. We've played some fun games where you've got to send in like your baby photo, for example, and guess who everyone is. And the last one we had was we've got a National Women's League group. We've actually buddied up the TAP girls, so the younger players, with the older players. And the older players have kind of had a challenge now to connect with their buddies. And that's been really quite cool as well to see them feeding off each other. And it's not just a one-way thing. I think the older players can certainly learn a lot off the younger players as well. And that's been quite pleasing to see how that's coming through. We're only in week 1, so we're looking to see, hopefully that goes forward even further. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're kind of jumping into level 3, which for me is a bit of a mind shift back towards the more football end and preparing them again physically so they don't just go straight into 100% of football as they normally would. So it's kind of preparing them physically so they can ramp up a little bit and get fitter and stronger again in a football sense, ready to play and ready to train. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Maya. Just a follow-up question around your connection. Would you say that the group's connection now is stronger probably than what it was pre-COVID-19 lockdown? Is that what you've noticed?
Oh, 100%. And kind of echoing what Mark has said is that it's stuff that you wouldn't normally think about. You'd think about turning up to the grass, getting your boots on, playing out the cones, what the girls need. And that day it's very much on the grass, and then you kind of take it away. And sometimes you might talk for 5 or 10 minutes about character at the end of the session or something like that, but it's not as, you never really make as much time for it as you should. And now there's no excuse not to. So it's kind of that perfect world where you've got the time and the players are really attentive and engaged and have got the energy for it. So it's a great time to do that. I think the other thing that's really spoke to me, Tim, is the 5 Ways to Wellbeing, which is a Crown Public Health document. I can share it with you if you like, and you can share it out. But
it'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, the 5 Ways to Wellbeing. Obviously, one is be active. Second one is connect. Third one is to keep learning. Next one is to notice. So notice things around you. Notice what's happening. Notice what you little senses, like, so what are you hearing? What are you smelling? What's different? And the last one is actually to give. And what the research has come back and said is that, yeah, you can use all those 5, but the most important one, the way that the people stay the most well, I'm not sure if that's a word, but the most well is actually to give. And I think that's where a lot of the girls probably took the most out of the thing, was the tap into the community task, where they had to give back to either their family or people around them, versus as kind of just being about them. And hopefully that sticks with them going forward.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd be really keen to get that document, Maya, so please do send that through when you can.
Will do.
Just thinking a little bit about what you've done and perhaps what you as coaches may take into the levels as we move through them. So we're just started into level 3 now, and hopefully we progress into level 2 soon after that. What things do you think you'll perhaps start up as we move through the levels, getting closer to the starting up sport? What things may you do a little bit differently from where we are right now? Mark, I'll start with you perhaps on that.
Definitely the technology thing would definitely continue. Firstly, I'm not in a hurry to get back on the water. It's been quite amazing. Thinking that, that they have the opportunity to do that now in our sport, because it's as long as we can't, we're not too close to each other, obviously. But really, it's been having, I guess, making myself a little bit vulnerable, especially for the person who wants to become a high performance, but really wanting to go to that end of the market. It's just actually understanding that there's more things that are going to be more important for her right now, and so actually rushing back into doing the same old is not actually that important. It's actually taking in what we've learnt about ourselves in this period and really learning how to value those and actually how to get the best out of that situation, and maybe start practicing that a little bit more, because the time will come when we can all get on the water and start training like that. But I'm backing the fact that the conditioning work that we're doing is going to be of huge value for them when they do go back onto the water anyhow, and the work that they're doing in their homemade gyms and things like that, keeping them in some sort of physical conditioning right now that they will be able to transition really early. But the things for me is around that time factors, to value it, to really, and this has come through from them as well, is to understand that actually it's been quite cool to be able to just do things in my time. And so how can I actually really ingrain that or put that back into their world, a little bit more their training world. And so what does it look like? Because like I said before, we were down on the water at 6 o'clock every morning before school for them or university for them. And maybe that's a bit restrictive for some. I don't know. But it's been interesting seeing their feedback. But yeah, and then technology, obviously I think using that far more. We use Training Peaks normally, and we will continue to do that obviously going forward. But actually what's been real fun is just using Messenger. They all get it, it's instantaneous, and it's more social, and so it's been quite cool just keeping the group connected that way. But they've driven it, and so good learnings for me in that as well. So that's some of the things that are pretty much top of mind. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. Sandra, I know when we spoke a little bit earlier, you've probably been not doing as much coaching as you would have liked, but what have you been doing as a coach, perhaps looking forward? Has there been some learning you've been undertaking or anything like that?
Oh yes, doing a bit of listening and learning, and I heard Maya on another chat a few weeks ago and was thinking, oh my goodness, there's so much more we can do, and actually technology is something that we're looking at going forward. What I have been listening to is a few sports psychology podcasts. Is that what they're called? Yep. And listening to Lisa Carrington and looking at Taylor Reid, who's a Gizzy boy triathlete, and just listening to how they're approaching it. And a lot of it was, maybe this is an excuse for me not being so innovative like football and kayaking, but they're just really appreciative of family time and just doing some other things as well. So how do they get there? And one thing was, being kind to yourself. So after listening to Maya, a week or two back, I was giving myself a hard time for not being innovative enough, but going forward, I will definitely incorporate some of those things. Lockdown came at a time where we'd finished in netball a big sort of development time and twilight competitions, and we were coming into the rep space, and club space. So sort of putting my emerging talent hat on and an under 16 coach hat on. How are we going to move forward in the time that we've got? And like Mark said, we're not rushing either. We are looking at incorporating sort of rep with development. Our sport is considered a contact sport, so it's not until level 1 that we can go back to gameplay or any kind of gameplay, but there will be limits around that as well. So for level 3 and 2, we're a little bit hamstrung. So we going into it, we are looking at, in the past, we have rep trials, say 50 under 16s turn up. We pick the top 24 and move them along, and the rest have an opportunity to be developed. But we're looking at including everybody going forward, sort of that tuakana-taina relationship. We're also limited, even at level 1, we can't go outside our centre. So we're looking at ways where we can have one umbrella and all the players are involved. And leading up to that, when we get given the go-ahead, small groups, getting them together, getting them moving, getting them together in the limited way that we can, in terms of we can't pass the ball around because the ball could transmit things that we don't want. So I think, that's sort of how we're looking at approaching the next phase. And I think having established athlete monitoring, we're a little bit the opposite. I think we're ready to go into a bit of fun while keeping that that conditioning base going. So that's where we're at.
Cool. Thanks, Sandra. Maya, just over to you. Just looking forward, as we do move through the levels and hopefully the restrictions do lift, what things will you take away and perhaps keep continuing on with your coaching that you've tried over this period with the lockdown?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. We know that the girls are going to be busy and we're not sure exactly how that looks just yet. So I guess once we have a better picture, we'll be in a better position to give like a full idea of how that looks. And again, the feedback that I've had from the girls is actually they're busier with school now more than ever. So they've actually got more skill work. They're actually like under the pump. So instead of us putting our foot down and saying, look, we're going to really go towards it now, we're actually kind of lightening the load a little bit. Less tasks and less of the home program stuff, and it's kind of they're in a position now where they can pick and choose, and they've got 4 weeks worth of stuff that they can pull out of if they want it. So for us it's actually kind of lightening the foot off the pedal a little bit, but really just changing the mindset of it. So it's like, okay, instead of it being more around the other skills like the mental, the social, emotional skills, it's kind of, okay, let's think more about what are we doing to prepare for, let's say 2 weeks time, hopefully we'll be back down to level 2 and potentially some non-contact training. So that's, as Sandra's talked about, as Mark talked about, it's the physical side. So certainly looking at even the short accelerations, decelerations, the longer sprints, that base level of endurance or speed endurance. So just normal activities that you do on a football field versus going out for a 5K run, for example. So it's more of a mind shift. We'll get them back on the field now as well. So a little bit more football minded stuff. So the technical stuff, thinking more tactically, thinking about their position and how they can build that into their training in the next couple of weeks. I think the biggest thing that we'd like to reflect on as a coaching staff is kind of structured versus unstructured. And Mark kind of brought this up as well, is we hadn't really planned on introducing them to be the owners of their IPP, so their individual performance plans. We haven't really introduced it for them to lead that, but it kind of happened naturally. So that's them actually going away and creating their own feeling of how they can work within their position and what technical development they need, or what physical development or mental development they need. So we're working on those IPPs, and we, I guess, as a staff had structured it where we're going to feed it to them bit by bit and eventually pass over that control. But they've kind of just had it lumped on them, and they've been able to survive within that as well. So maybe we just keep them now owning that and keep them driving that, and that being a living, working kind of process there, as opposed to us really having to structure it and kind of drive it from our side. I think the other thing that we're doing is really, as a staff, we'll probably get into this next week, but thinking, what do we actually want to get out of level 2? How does it look? We still don't know exactly what's possible, but we can start to think about, if the girls are going to come in, if they're going to drive in and all that sort of stuff, like, how can we get as much as we can from that session? So what's possible, and then thinking about, okay, we need to really consider these restrictions and going bit by bit to think about, okay, are they carpooling? What are they doing on arrival? Can they touch the fences? Can they not touch the gates? Can they use the bathrooms? Can we do huddles? All that sort of stuff. And then you're thinking about also the on grass. So like the technical side, can we do crossing and finishing? Like all of that sort of stuff as well. So we're really going to go through it in real detail. So we're going to think broad picture first. What can we do? And then we're going to whittle it down to every little detail, making sure that we're keeping it nice and safe. So, yeah. And the last part of that is for us, a lot of that will come down to enjoyment and engagement, because they're going to be bouncing off the walls, getting to see each other again, getting to feel the real presence and harness that energy. Like these girls are, like these young people are resilient, but have been through a lot. So it's also about just letting them kind of run with it for a little bit and have that fun and allow them to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Brilliant, Maya. Just there's been some great sharing, and thanks to everybody, Mark, Maya, Sandra, on what you've shared so far. It's been really cool and insightful. And for myself as a coach who's been a little bit on hold, it's been cool to hear what you guys have been doing, and really appreciate what you've shared. Just as a way of finishing up, I'd like for us to do a one-word exercise, and I want you to think about your coaching during the COVID-19 period, and what's the quality or attribute that you think has been really important for you as a coach? What's the thing that's really you felt has been really critical for your coaching during this period? So just I'll give you just a little brief moment to think about that. So one quality or attribute that you think has been really, really important for you as a coach. And Mark, I know you're really good at these exercises, so I think I might jump to you first. And if you could kick us off, please, and maybe just a little bit of an explanation why you've picked that word or quality.
Yeah, good on you, Tim. Yeah, I think adaptable for me is a huge one that's come through. Yeah, like I said, in some of this, I had to completely rethink myself, and then it was about those young people basically leading what we do, and just allowing that to happen and being relaxed in the fact that hey, what they're doing, this looks really cool. This is fun. I can see that they're so connected with each other. They're so engaged in what they're actually doing. So they're actually training a little bit more than what they normally would, which has been quite incredible. And just that time that they're spending at home with family for me has been really cool. And how you can see their families being more involved in what they're doing as well. And so, yeah, so for me, it was hugely adaptable. I had to adapt everything that I was doing and how I went about, setting programs, the types of sessions that we would do. Again, the people development stuff has been the huge one, again, around looking at it from, obviously, through their eyes, which we always would do, but not just about sport, but them at home, maybe. Things that they're challenged there, maybe at school, that they're challenged being the person they really want to be and helping them through that. So, yeah. So for me, adaptable, yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. Sandra, how about for you?
For me, I think patience. And I don't know whether that's a good thing given what I've heard from Mark and Maya. Probably could have used a bit more energy. But I like what's been achieved from the group and where they're at, and it is slow and it is worthwhile, and I think a reasonable amount of what's reassurance, I think, is the other thing for those players, that hey, it's okay, what you're doing is great, the way you're doing it's fine, how about we just tweak it a little bit to make it more effective and relevant for netball.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Sandra. Maya, what's your one, please?
Yeah, I think mine would have to be receiving. So a lot of the content that we've had or communication that we've had has actually been led by the player, which has been quite interesting. So even the one-to-one chats that we had at the very beginning, they were saying what they wanted to achieve. They've delivered there on their IPPs. They're the ones that have really led the connection pieces in the chats. Yeah, we set up some tools and some structure, but they are the ones that are really going for it. And every single task that they do that comes back, I'm just so overwhelmed by like how well they've done it, and how well they've connected as a group. So for me, that's been something that I wouldn't necessarily have seen of them. So it's been cool to see that, to listen to them, to receive that energy back, and that gives me another boost of energy to go forward again and keep working and keep keep pushing the barriers of what is possible during this time. Brilliant.
Thanks, Maya, and thanks to everyone, to Mark, Sandra, and Maya for your time today. We really appreciate it, and hopefully the coaches on the lot who have been listening online have been able to take away some things that they can put into practice if they're perhaps getting ready to coach again, or they are coaching at the moment with their teams and their athletes. So thanks again for your time. We'll hopefully carry on these forums as we carry on through the COVID-19 time. So we'll certainly look to get another one happening next week, and the team at Sport Wellington will work out topics and how we're going to do it, and be in touch with everybody. But thanks everyone, and go well, stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
There you go.
Bye.